Most of what we hear about the economy, it comes from way up high, from people looking at charts and spreadsheets. But our source material for this explainer points out that down on the ground, the view is, well, it's a whole lot different. So today, we're going to lace up our boots and go see how the gears of this machine are actually turning.
This quote, man, it just nails it, right? We're going to get past all the abstract numbers and look at the physical, mechanical reality of it all. The economy that's made of real things, real people, and very, very real pressures. So here's the game plan. We're going to start way up high with a big global picture. Then we'll drop down to the national level where you can start to see some cracks in the big story. From there, we'll zoom in on North Carolina as a case study, and then go hyperlocal to a single county to see how all this stuff collides on the ground. And then we'll wrap it up with the final verdict. All right, let's start with that 30,000-foot view. Right now, there are a couple of major international things happening that are creating some serious turbulence for the global economy. Okay, first up, the big trade agreement between the US, Mexico, and Canada. What was supposed to be just a simple routine review in 2026, well, it's not looking so simple anymore. It's starting to feel a lot more like a full-blown renegotiation, and that could really shake up the supply chain so many businesses have built their entire models on. And while that's happening, any trouble in the Strait of Hormuz, which is a huge choke point for global oil, is basically what the source calls market roulette. It's a regressive tax on everything physical, because it drives up the cost to ship, well, anything. For you and me, that just means any relief we were feeling from inflation could get wiped out by higher prices. Okay, so let's come down from that global view and see what's happening at the national level. For months, all we've heard is about this roaring economy. But if you start to look under the hood, you start to see some pretty serious cracks forming in that story. And here's Exhibit A, a loss of 92,000 U.S. jobs in February. This number came out of nowhere. It completely shattered what everyone was expecting, and it's the second biggest monthly drop we've seen since the pandemic. It doesn't fit the happy narrative. But it's not just that jobs were lost, it's why. In about 10% of those cases, companies like Block and Oracle came right out and said it. Artificial intelligence was the reason. So yeah, we've officially left the AI as a cool concept phase and entered the AI as a tool that's actually replacing jobs phase. And as if that wasn't enough, the Supreme Court just tossed a huge wrench in the works. A ruling on tariffs could mean the U.S. Treasury is on the hook for $175 billion in refunds. That's billion with a B. It's another massive unexpected shock to the whole system. So when you add all this up, the job losses, the rise of AI and layoffs, this giant potential bill for the Treasury, you get this conclusion. That story about the roaring economy, it seems to have slammed right into a very real, very hard mechanical wall. Now let's zoom in even more. If you look at a single state, like North Carolina, you can see this split perfectly. It's like there are two different economies living in the same place. It's what they call a K-shaped story, where one part of the economy shoots way up while another part goes straight down. And you can see that K-shape right here. On the arm going up, you've got an industrial fortress being built. We're talking a $6 billion fiber optics plant, a $1 billion data center. Huge stuff. But on the arm going down, you've got this massive social deficit, a nearly $6 billion a year childcare crisis, counties being officially labeled distressed, and huge gaps in funding for basic things like water infrastructure. And that social deficit, it has very real consequences. Just look at childcare. The average cost for an infant is now over $11,000 a year. That's more than tuition at a public university. The source calls it a hard mechanical ceiling. It's a physical barrier that literally stops young mothers from being able to enter the workforce. Okay, now let's get all the way down to the ground truth. We're going to one specific place, Catawba County, North Carolina. Because what's happening in their local housing market, it perfectly captures the entire contradiction we've been talking about. Just look at this paradox. The median home price in the county is up over 8% from last year. Sounds good, right? But here's the crazy part. The number of homes actually being sold has crashed by 25%. Prices are going up, but the market itself is completely frozen solid. So, what is going on? Well, it's a textbook example of something called the lock-in effect. Basically, if you were smart or lucky enough to get a super low mortgage rate a few years back, you are not selling your house. No way, because you'd have to buy a new one at today's much higher rates. So people stay put, and the number of houses for sale just evaporates.
And this freeze directly impacts the workforce. Remember those great, high-paying jobs we mentioned from those new industrial plants? Well, this housing lock-in acts like a mechanical tax on labor. People can't move to the area to take those jobs because there's nowhere affordable to live. It traps people and chokes off the very growth the area is trying so hard to create. So we've gone from the global economy all the way down to a single county's housing market. What's the final verdict? What do you get when you try to square these two completely different stories? The source material uses a really powerful phrase. It says, "We are seeing a violent decoupling." It means the high-level financial signals, the stuff you see in the headlines, are moving in one direction, while the on-the-ground mechanical reality that people live every single day is moving in a completely different one. Let's put it simply. The high-altitude reality looks like a golden era of huge investment. But the ground-level reality? It's a story of fraying foundations, job worries, broken infrastructure, and a middle class that is feeling an incredible squeeze. And this is maybe the most important point of the whole thing. The analysis isn't saying the boom is fake. It's real. The investments are real. The potential is absolutely there. The problem is that this massive boom is being built on top of crumbling supports. The foundation just isn't strong enough to hold all that weight. And that leaves us with one final massive question. We know the boom is happening. We can see the steel going up. But when you look at all those cracks in the foundation, you just have to wonder, can it actually hold?